Welcome everyone, my name is Brendan Snyder. Thank you for joining me. This is New Music Finds, episode number 8. It's where I like to collect all the new music that I got from the past week into one place and then present it to you, whether it be from record stores, online retailers, Amazon, eBay, and more places like that. I've got 10 CDs of new releases, reissues, and rarities to go through with you. But before we dive into all that, if you're new to my channel and you haven't already hit the subscribe button, please click the button. Also leave a comment, hit like, all those things help support my channel. And if you know someone that would enjoy this video, please share it, help get the word out that way. I would also appreciate it. And as I always say, by subscribing, you'll be able to stay up to date on all that's going on in the world of music, just like this with New Music Releases, episode number 8. And kicking things off, I've got 3 new releases from this past week that I want to talk about. One of them here, a pretty major one, we've got Cheap Trick and their brand new studio album, In Another World. It's their 20th studio album, if you can believe that, featuring 12 originals and 1 cover song on it. And for me, the album itself seems to have a much bigger sound to it than their past albums. It's broader in scope and it's got beautiful arrangements throughout. Lead vocalist Robin Zander's voice on this is really strong and powerful, and he's nearly 70 years old here. And then we got Rick Nielsen's guitar playing on here, which I think is outstanding, and he's 72. So you got these 2 guys. I think it's fantastic. They're still out there rocking. The other 2 guys are laying down a perfect foundation for what I think is going to be one of the best albums of 2021. So do yourself a favor and check out this brand new Cheap Trick. I have done a full review of the album, and we'll put a link to it in the description below if you want to check out some more on it. Okay, the next new release, Sweet Oblivion, Relentless. This here is the 2nd studio album by this band, and it features Jeff Tate, formerly of Queensryche, on vocals. Now this thing here, I want to preference this when I say band because it's really a project put together by Frontiers Records. The band itself was put together as a vehicle for Jeff in the vein of his former band Queensryche, so that he could then be doing music in that vein and that style. Now Jeff does contribute to some of the lyrics here, but the songwriting and music is handled by either the essentially backup band here and or outside songwriters. Now it's done really well though, and it really does sound like early Queensryche on here, and in my opinion I think it's a really great sounding album. It's like a long lost Queensryche album, and so regardless of who wrote this thing, you've got the fantastic vocals of Jeff singing on this in the style of early Queensryche, and I again think this is worthy of checking out. Okay, and the third and final new release to talk about is The End Machine, which is their 2nd studio album. And this one here features 2 former Dokken members, Jeff Pilson on bass and George Lynch on guitar. And then you've got 1 former Lynch Mob member and current vocalist for Warrant, that's Robert Mason. And then interestingly, on the first album, the drums were handled by original Dokken drummer Mick Brown, but on this release, it's handled by his younger brother, Steve Brown. Mick has decided to step away from the music industry, and so Steve is stepping into his shoes, which is kind of cool. And so the original intention of this project was to form a band like Dokken, and imagine what Dokken would sound like if Don Dokken had not fronted the band. So the style of the songs and the structure of them is intentionally set up to sound like Dokken. Of course, they do put their own spin on it, and they definitely bring it into the 21st century. And I have to say, so far, I like this album here better than the debut. So if you did like the debut, this one here is definitely worth checking out. But of course, I think if you're a Dokken fan or a Lynch Mob fan, you should also check it out. It's got some great guitar work by George on it. Okay, now moving into the things that I searched out this past week. I've got 7 of them here, and the first one up is a group called Stingray. Their self-titled debut album from 1979 and only release. Got this through Amazon, and it's a new reissue by Bad Reputation Records 2021 release. So if you've been looking for this like I have, it is now out and you can pick it up. They're a melodic hard rock group from South Africa, and the album itself has some big bombastic layered vocals and production style on it, lending itself to the punk rock sound and genre at the time. So good stuff here, definitely recommend it, and as I mentioned, it's been reissued, so it's newly available and out. Okay, next one is Boulder and their debut album from 1979. It's a self-titled release. This group here is a melodic hard rock band that features Stan Bush on guitar. He doesn't sing on this as he does on his other records, but this is the project he started out in, and of course he's most notable probably for his 1984 contribution to the Transformer soundtrack movie. He recorded the theme song called The Touch, and a lot of people didn't actually know it was him at the time, kind of a thing, but that's him. Fantastic song, had a minor hit with it, and of course he's had a very successful solo career as well. But this again is where he got his start, and it was reissued on Wounded Bird Records in 2010, and I picked this up secondhand through one of Amazon's marketplace retailers called Import CDs. They're a really good one. If you see their name as a reseller and you're not sure, just know they are a class act, do good packaging, and get stuff out to you quickly. Okay, next up, we've got Balance, In for the Count. This one is their second studio album and last album by them, and it was sort of a super group of sorts at the time. It featured Pepe Castro on vocals, coming from Blues Magoos, Barnaby Bye, and short-lived hard rock band called Wiggy Bits. And then you got Bob Kulick on guitars, and he was a very in-demand session musician, having worked with Meatloaf, Paul Stanley, also with Kiss but uncredited, and then Lou Reed. And then you got the keyboard player Doug Katsaris, and he too was a very in-demand session player. This album here rocks a little harder than the debut, and it seems like they kind of found their footing on this one, really came into their own. It's hard rock sound with 80s keyboards up front in it that helped define the sound of that era. Creates some very memorable songs on each one of these, or styles on each one of these for the songs. And for me, I don't know, it's just a wonder why this album didn't catch on. But of course, that's sort of the MO for Rock Candy Records, always dealing in this. Both of these, this one here kicks off some Rock Candy Records reissues that I've got here that we're going through. And the second one within that, Roadmaster, called Sweet Music. It is their second studio album, came out in 1978. Melodic hard rock band, AOR, also some pump rock thrown in there. Similar in style to Styx, Starcastle, and Trillion. And unlike a lot of these one-off bands that I've been talking about and that Rock Candy usually deals in, this band made 4 studio albums. So if you do enjoy this and you end up checking it out, there is more for you to go and find by the band after this. Next up, a band called Dakota, and they have 2 albums out, and of course both on reissue. You've got the self-titled debut from 1980 and a follow-up called Runaway in 1984. Not really sure why there was 4 years between these. Maybe they just were restructuring and or having trouble lining up record label support and so forth. The first one, though, that came out in 1980, the self-titled one, has far more of the 1970s influences and sound on it. And then by the 1984 album Runaway, they were really much more of that polished 80s type sound, and a more of a rock sound to it at that. So depending upon your style or your interest, know which one you're getting, kind of a thing. But I actually like both styles, so I picked them both up. And it was formed by the duo of Jerry Ludzik. And I might be saying that wrong, I don't know. It starts with an H, but it's an HL, and I don't know if one of these letters is silent, but that's how I'm pronouncing it. Playing vocals and guitar, and Bill Kelly also on vocals and guitar. Both are former members of the Buoys, and interestingly, they were signed by Chicago drummer Danny Serafin at the time. Melodic rock, AOR, and pump rock style, and similar to bands like Toto, Styx, and of course Chicago. All right, and the final release that I picked up that's from Rock Candy Records and I want to talk about is the group Aviator. 1986, this band here has roots going all the way back to the late 60s. Both the guitarist and drummer in this group were in a group called The Illusion and recorded 3 studio albums with them between 1968 and 1970. Obviously, a lot transpired by 1970 and 1986 when this album, Aviator, the debut, came out, and so far only album by them. It was produced by Neil Kernon, who's worked with Kansas, Autograph, and Dawkins. So I should tell you the production level of what this is. It's melodic hard rock similar to Bon Jovi's style at the time, and to me, an absolute mystery as to why this just didn't explode. When you hear it, you'll know what I mean. It's just really amazing hard rock music. And really good AOR music at that. So there you go. 10 CDs, including the new releases for the week, some reissues, and some rarities thrown in there for good measure. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. I hope everyone has a good day, and I'll talk to you all real soon. Bye, everyone.